Welcome to VictoryHealth.tv and Victory Health Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Parrish from Victory Health Center here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Today, I've got a very, very special episode. Quantal Langford from Oceanside, California, the creative brew, Langford Designs. This guy is a mindset ninja, and you don't want to miss this show today. Here we go.
Hey, how's it going?
It's really good to see you, dude. It's really cool to connect with you.
I was like, I saw you on Instagram. I was like, wait a minute, Jake Parrish. I was like, I didn't know he's a doctor.
I am. I try my hardest, man. I try my hardest. So I'm trying to get my volume right, man. I've had the worst time getting connected.
Oh, okay.
Cool. So it's funny, man. I haven't seen you in a long time. I've been following you a little bit, but dude, you have gone like, and there's all kinds of different directions your life's going in. And so I think it's cool. Also wanted to just, I don't know, man, you're doing some really like mind, body, like missional kind of work. And I think that's cool, dude. And I want to talk about that. So how'd you end up in Cali?
Yeah, me and my wife, we'd been in Tennessee, and she ended up getting a position out here. She lived out here for some years. When I met her, I was back in Tennessee, and she'd always talked about Oceanside, and I was like, oh, whatever, my plan was like I was going to stay around the Cleveland area forever, and but yeah, life happens, and she ended up getting a job. Got an interview, ended up getting a job out here, and as far as what I do, as far as my design work and everything else, I pretty much can work from anywhere, and we made a decision, packed up, and got on the U-Haul and drove out here. So it was definitely a culture shock for me personally, and sort of being around more of a conservative area to being out here on the West Coast, and it was just like what we consider old on the East Coast isn't necessarily old on the West Coast, and you got people outside running and surfing and working out, and you got 34-year-olds on skateboards, hatted up, just that's just how it is out here. And so it took me a minute to like, okay, what is going on here? But now I've gotten used to it now, and getting to know a lot of the people around here, still learning, new people out here. It's crazy, just the amount of connections that you could possibly make. And I'm fortunate enough to where I still do a lot of client work, and I still have relationships on the East Coast too. So I'm very, very fortunate, to still be able to, communicate out here as well as on the, East Coast.
You have kids too? You got a grandbaby?
Yeah, I got two stepsons, and I actually got 4 grandkids now. So, so we used to bring them out here. We bring the kids out here, and they'd always wrestle with me, and I'm always telling stories and all kinds of scary stories and everything else. So it's it's definitely sort of shifted my perception on how I communicate with kids, and just different things that just being a dad, and knowing learning the ups and downs of it, and knowing that kids are going to make mistakes, and knowing that I can't hold your hand the whole time. I can guide you, I can mentor you, but ultimately you're going to have to make that decision, and sort of knowing that you try to do the best you can, and you keep going forward. You just keep trying to become a better person, a better husband, better parent, better grandparent, better coach. So those are things that I'm always sort of thinking about.
What's it like seeing your kids raise their kids?
And that's something that I've always sort of wondered about. Even the way my mom raised me, she was a little bit harder on me, especially being around all my uncles and everything and aunts. They pretty much raised me, and how they raised me is not necessarily how I would raise another kid, but it made me stronger, and that's when I was aware. Even with my grandkids and all them growing up, I always sort of envision like, I'm gonna be tough on them, and like I find myself, just learning how to understand them better and talk to them, and then not to say I don't, yeah, if you mess up, yes, you're gonna have to pay some consequences, but I feel like there's a different way for me as far as how I raise them, and then hopefully that gets instilled in my kids.
That connection's beautiful, Quantel. Like connecting, like why is that kid doing that, or why is that kid acting like that? Not just punishing the child for the bad behavior, but what exactly is going on in that child's head that leads them to do that?
That's something I always sort of wonder. It's just the amount of things that hits a lot of these kids is radically different from the things that we had to deal with when we were younger. It's just one of those to where, okay, how do they sort of decipher who they are and trying to figure out how do they grow into their own person without the influx of everything hitting them as far as technology or social media or just media or friends and school and everything else. How do they keep from getting so swamped? And you see a lot of that's where you see a lot of kids. It's a rise in mental health with a lot of these kids because of the influx of everything that's going on, and even with adults too. Yeah, even with the kids, I mean, it's hitting them at such a rapid pace and trying to figure out ways of sort of mentally, holistically trying to keep them foundationally sort of based while they deal with society and life and the ever changing landscape.
It's the speed at which they are growing up, dude, is like way faster than we grew up. I feel like the last 5 years has been like really, really fast, like too fast. Like it's hard for our brains and our minds to manage how fast that everything's just moving. And so I think it's so healthy to pause and just to process like life a little bit. You mentioned that a while back. This is a blast from the past, man. I'm not going to bring up 1998 though. Just that's it.
Don't bring it up.
I won't. So did you got a design degree from UT?
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Had you always been artsy like that? And don't forgive me for saying artsy, but have you always been creative like that?
Yeah. Since I was little, my uncle Lionel, who passed away, he'd always been in art, and that was him. And my mom was pretty much like some of my first art teachers. We were, my mom, she was always into collages and everything else, so we was always like making like paper mache structures like for my toys and stuff, and like we would make all these fortresses and everything. And so really teaching me how to really be creative with the things that I had. My uncle, he was just one of those to where he was always a stickler. He was always into a lot of portraits and pencil work, and I try to. I was like, okay, let me show him a drawing that I did, and I was younger, and I remember it like it was yesterday. But
Yeah.
I was sitting there trying to trace a image, and I showed it to him like, hey, here you go, and he could tell. I mean, even now I could tell. He was like, okay, you trace the image. It was like, and he told me to like look at every part of that image and work on each line until you get the whole thing. That was pretty much what I did. I just sat there and looked at it and just drew line by line until I learned how to get the whole structure, of that picture. And it didn't come out like the best, but that was the foundation for me to like keep progressing.
How do you make the decision between and I think this is a big conversation for a lot of people in their head, is like, should I actually go in that direction, or is that like something that I'm just interested in, or is that actually a calling? Like, how do you
Now I'm a little bit more adamant, especially through the podcast and talking to a younger audience, is figuring out ways to sort of double down on your strengths. And because I'm gonna tell you, one of my graphic design teachers, he just straight out told me, he's like, look, don't expect to get a job right out of school. The portfolio that we were building up, it wasn't meant for like real world projects. I'm really big on creating relationships and learning how to network, because that's how you get into certain situations and opportunities. How can I create some kind of value or some kind of relationship that's going to benefit the other person?
That's really good.
Um, and that's something to where I would, I love to sort of tell a younger audience now, or people that's aspiring to get into the creative industry. It's figuring out how to create those relationships. I've honestly, I mean, I've gotten more work through staying connected to wrestling than I
Yeah.
have anything else. And it's just one of those to where you keep those relationships, you do great work, and then people sort of come to you. Not to say there's things I could still be doing, but I've sort of made it an intention to sort of develop and create those relationships.
Is
um,
is developing those relationships uncomfortable for you, Quantel? Are you a naturally outgoing person, or are you more of a shy person?
yeah, I've always been a sort of introverted person, but now I find myself through the podcast and through other things being more vocal and sort of sharing my authenticity to my audience.
But my success is defined by what I consider successful, not what somebody else considers successful for my life or even for their life. And so when we push, and we keep our heads down, at some point we'll look up. I did that for my first year. I didn't take hardly any days off. It was just nose down, working. I looked up after a year intentionally, because I was going to take my first week off after 365 days. I was taking a year off. That was my goal. Wake up on time. I know you talked to a guy a while back, and he was like, I don't really have like a special thing to say, but he said, if I did, then it would be, my best me is waking up early. My best me is exercising and eating right and putting good stuff in my body. And when I'm that person, then I am the best version of myself. And the best version of myself gets the best stuff done and has the most capacity for living the best life that I can.
Yep.
We look at our weaknesses and we go, man, I need to fix that, or I need to fix this. But sometimes we don't develop our strength. And you said double down on the strengths. I like that. I think that we don't take advantage of our strengths, but we're given gifts. We all have like a special gift or a special talent or whatever it is. What are some of the things that you notice about yourself, like that you're strong and you go, I'm gonna build that. I'm gonna build that part of me.
Yeah, I think now, even now, I'm still sort of realizing certain things that I had an inkling about, I knew, but now really sort of walking in that. It's even now. One of my strengths is I'm very. I'm gonna say it's a strength. I mean, I happen to be stubborn. I think that's part of how my mom sort of raised me. That's how she is. Um, Now you can have a stubborn part about you where, hey, you don't want to listen. You've got that part. Sometimes that is me. But at the same time too, that same stubborn part allowed me to sort of keep going when I had maybe inside influences or outside influences say, hey, you can't do this, or
Yeah.
you need to give this up, or maybe you need to go a different direction. That same stubborn part, or even just bettering yourself every day, and not feeling bad about saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna do my prayer, I'm gonna do my meditation, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do everything that I can possibly for me
Yeah.
to be the best version that I can be this day. I'm gonna be stubborn about that,
It's good.
and stubborn about my time. So in that aspect, yes, you need to be stubborn. And I think a lot of people feel like, I'm giving time to this or to that.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are still going to be there. If you can just break off, even getting up just a little bit earlier, give yourself about 20 or 30 minutes to sit down and center yourself and get yourself in the right frame of mind, because those emails will be there, social media will be there. Um, you know, all those things, they're going to be there waiting. So it's one of those where, do you want to show up from a space of feeling like, I'm going to respond to the state, I'm going to do the things that I need to do, even if it's just one thing. You're not, I'm not a fan of multitasking.
Yeah.
I will get one or two things done, and then that's it. If I get those two things done, then that's a good day for me.
Like a,
Everything else gets pushed to the next day. I'm not going to go down and like, hey, I did this, did this, did this. No, I'm not. I'm not like that. So it's just one of those where, figure out ways to create that space, be stubborn about it, and come out, sort of wake up saying, you know what, this is going to be the best version of me that the world gets.
yeah.
I'm going to make the most of it. And I think a lot of people sort of wake up and go in reaction mode, and they get up and like, oh, okay, I'm already all over the place,
Yeah.
and your energy is getting pulled, and you're getting drained, and you don't even realize it. So by the end of the day, you're like, why am I tired? I didn't do anything.
That's right.
Yes, you did not do anything.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where, like, figure out ways to be more stubborn with your time, and make more time, or make the space for yourself,
This is
even if it's
beautiful.
20 or 30 minutes. So
Self-care is not selfish. I think it's important. That's kind of a buzzword over the last couple of years, is self-care, and taking care of yourself and making sure that you're healthy and you're presenting yourself to the world the best you, whether you're you don't have to be like a Christian. You don't have to be like a faithful person to be an influence on other people. But when you do have that in your heart, then you kind of have a responsibility to wake up early and be the best that you can. Also, there's a metaphor that we use at my clinic, and it's getting chased by a tiger. Like, as soon as you wake up in the morning, if there's a tiger beside your bed and you have to jump out and you're blowing through the shower and you've got to get to work and you are just rushing everywhere, getting chased by a tiger, by the end of the day, when you get home, of course you're going to be tired. You've been getting chased by a tiger all day. And that
yeah,
doesn't allow your body to heal it. Actually, when you do that, when you're stressed out like that, it doesn't let you be creative. It actually starts to harden your brain. It starts to block these different creative pathways. You can't, it's really hard to be in stress mode and to be in go forward mode. And so if you're moving forward, you're moving forward. If you're moving backwards, you're moving backwards. But we're really not just standing in the middle of the road. We're either doing left or we're going right. We're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. If we're standing in the middle of the road, then that's what we would call resting in the blessing. It's taking the time and resting in what you have, and understanding that I don't have to grow today. I don't have to make something today. I can take a couple weeks or even a year and rest in the blessing. But always remember that, like, you have a standard for, I think we should all have a standard for our life, like a you don't have a list, like you said, but a routine is huge. Waking up in the morning for 15 minutes and doing some meditation and some prayer and settling that your core is one of the most powerful things that you can do. But once again, getting chased by a tiger, we don't take the time to do that. And it actually is a detriment to our health. It's a detriment to our life in general.
so all the things that I've got going on, and people ask me all the time, they was like, how do you find the energy to do all this stuff?
Yeah.
And because, like I said, I still coach, I still work out with a lot of these fighters. I do personal training, I'm doing the podcast, doing client work. I help, I run a clothing brand, so I'm always dealing with fighters and getting things printed. So doing, starting getting the speaking engagements. And people ask me, it's like, where do you find the energy for all this? And that this is aside from even being a you know husband, and having to deal with personal things with the family. And yeah, it's just like one of those where, like, you have to cultivate the energy. I see myself as like a messenger of creativity. Like, the things that I put out in this universe, the things that I say, it is not from, it's coming through me. It is not it is not me. It is things that has been swirling around,
Good.
in the ether, in the universe. And I just happen to be a messenger. And that's what I tell my class a lot of times is, say, look, the things that I say to you, it's coming through me. So what I say to you is probably meant for you, and you need to figure out ways to attach to it and then circulate it out, give it to someone else. So yeah, those are things that I'm really aware about, really big on, is figuring out how can I, you know, become a bigger container of energy and insight and ideals and inspiration. To do that, I'm gonna have to, have the right nutrition. I'm gonna have to center myself better, working out, getting all facets, my spiritual, mental, physically, get everything in tune. And then, I can go out there and do the best, the best work, uh, possible. And like I said, and everybody's work is different. And I don't want people to sort of confuse, like, hey, I work at McDonald's. No, that's regular work. Your great work. And I think that's what people need to aspire towards,
Yeah.
is figuring out what your great work is, and build your energy and everything toward aligning towards that great work.
You built a business. What was your first business that you started?
Yeah, it was a Langford Design. Started that in 2007, and yeah, that was the first one. And then after that was Just Heart Apparel, which is my clothing brand. Started that, and then after getting out here, I was like, I told you I'm an introvert,
Yeah.
and I had a hard time, like I'm with the chamber out here, but I still have a hard time sort of networking. And I was like, well, what if I was talking to my wife, and I was like, what if I made some kind of podcast, and to where I can bring people on and talk about their journey, their creative journey, and their ups and downs over a cup of, coffee or tea, or or a glass of beer. And so that was how the Creative Brew was born. And yeah, started recording that at a comic book and coffee shop that's out here. So and I still partner up with them and do different things. But yeah, they allowed me to let me. I was fortunate enough to where they let me record, and I started going from there. So now, I'm over 100 episodes in, and
So
been,
out of it's kind of funny actually. You so you were introverted and didn't really want to be in groups of people. So you decided that I still want to connect with people, but I want to connect with people one on one. But you also decided that I can share this one on one with other people, and I'm still in your community, and I still get to see your heart, and I still get to see you in your comfort zone. And it's really nice to see that. And so once again, encouragement to people out there that you can really live the life that you want to live. I think that's one thing too. We hold ourselves back. We think that we can't do that because he does that, or Quantal, man, he's a really good artist. There's no way I could do something like that he does. But um, if I don't try, if I don't put any effort into it, then of course I'll never achieve that. I'll never be able to do that. So you got to stick it out there a little bit, and see if it gets chopped off. Sometimes it does get chopped off and it hurts really bad and you feel really bad. But that's okay too, because maybe that wasn't in your home run zone. Maybe you were trying to play on some of your weaknesses and see, kind of test that water. That's not your zone. So
yeah,
and stay in your lane. It's okay to stay in your lane too. For me, I admire guys that can get up and speak in front of 1,000 people and be certain about what they're saying and confident in what they're saying. But I can't talk like that guy. I certainly can. I can't speak like that man can, but I can speak from my heart, and I can speak from my truth. And that's what attracts people, is the authenticity that you talk about, is just being real. I've had a lot of broken heart issues in my own life. We've had a lot of emotional damage just from growing up and going through all kinds of tragedies. We've had a couple of miscarriages over the last few years, and it made us pause, and it made us stop about, just stop and think about, like, everything and in the
yeah,
hurt. But in that hurt, what we've done is we've created a lot of room for growth. And sometimes when you do get that pruned off, that allows that part of your life to grow even more. And we
yeah,
have to be able to go through some hurt sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you're hurting, it hurts, but that is your calling. and that you do have to push through that. And we have to have discernment. And that's what, coming back to the center in my day, and having peace in my life and de-stressing, it helps me to recognize what it is that I do well, what it is I don't do well, what my passions are. If I'm spending all day 100 miles per hour, I don't even stop and think about my next step or what it is that I really want to do. I might just be working this job just because that's what I think that I'm supposed to do. I just think I'm supposed to work a job, and I've got other things that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And I think about that all the time. And I've told my wife, I'm like, even the things that sort of transpiring right now, and is like, I feel more compelled now to do more podcasting and doing more speaking. And I was like, as good as a designer and creative that I am, I told my wife, I was like, I was like, I really don't feel like doing it anymore. I want to write more. I want to be able to speak more. I want to,
Yep.
go to, different events and seminars and talk about different concepts. That's what I enjoy doing, and that's usually I use a lot of different ideas and concepts, and I use that as the container for a lot of my episodes, and even talking to my class. I talk to my class like every I got my adult practice. I got a kids practice and adult practice. Usually I talk to the kids a little bit, but the adults, I talk to them after practice every day, and I've been doing it for like 4 years now. And I use that as the sort of my practice room to be able to communicate different ideals, and at the same time too, you know, we got a lot of military, a lot of different people from different backgrounds, and I've had people, come up and talk to me that's been through a divorce, or even with I had a guy in the military that his best friend had just killed himself. Just with the suicide rate is high, especially in the military.
Yeah.
And came up to me, man, like, hey, look, I'm glad you said this. This is what was going on. And he didn't even tell me. He was like, this is what was going on. I'm glad you said those. I needed those words. So it's like, it's one of those where I could easily say, I'm not going to do this anymore because I'm not getting the quote unquote results that I'm looking for.
Right.
No, that is my practice room. That's how I communicate and practice. So
Yep.
whenever I get into the podcast, or I'm doing podcasting or doing any kind of speaking engagements, that all that stuff helps me to communicate ideals and practice, and learning how to communicate, and learning how to resonate with audiences, and learning how to connect the dots with certain things.
So,
um,
so you did yours out of so, because here's what I think a lot of people, they got this business, have a business, they kind of get it going, they maybe start a little bit different, but yours is not, yours is a branch out of all this stuff. It's a new creation of basically something that you've already created. You're doing new stuff, but you have a foundation of in the design stuff, and then that's like, it's like your stepping stone. You have a
yeah,
stepping stone. This is where I land. Like when if the creative brew just totally sucks one day, like it won't ever. But if it did, you have a foundation to land on. And I think there's a little bit of comfort in that. And that's good that
yeah,
you have the ability to step out and do these things. But when even if you get tired of doing that, or you get worn out, you can always come back home to this is my home run swing. This is what I do the best of the best.
yeah,
You
yeah. And that's
you've got a quote. I gotta quote you. So on healthy people, I pick a random quote, and I'm not gonna hit you too hard, but it's good.
all
It's
right.
actually it's really good. Let me try to find it real quick. Quantal Langford at the Langford studio, at Seedbook Series, at the Creative Brew.tv, at Just Heart Apparel. You said being authentically you is your superpower. There's no one quite like you. Once you figure that out, the only limit in life is what you put on it. Um, where do people's limits come from? Where
um
what does that person limit themselves? What's the limit? What's holding that person back?
I honestly, I think it could be outside influences. It could be your environment. It could be media. It could be the things that you physically see and hear and touch and you feel like um, I think all those things can be factors. Sometimes it can be family that maybe there's limits on their thinking and their awareness, and they pass it on and be like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do because this is what I did. And that's not
Totally.
necessarily the case, and those are things that now I am trying to. I think it comes down to destroying the old story
Mm.
about who I think I am, and figuring out, if I, to bring in something new, you have to destroy any kind of um, limitation or any kind of story that you believed to be true about yourself, in the past. So I think now that's what I'm getting at is figuring out, no, I am not perfect at all. And sitting in that and being like, what, that's all right. Yeah, I get people that text me all the time. They're like, man, you're the greatest designer ever. And then I get people saying, hey, look, I'm having an issue with this order. You need to get this fixed, and so it's just one of those where, yeah, you have your good and bad, and it's one of those where if you find your foundation, you find your centering, and know, what, okay, I know the destination. I know how I need to show up every day.
Yep.
If I show up, and just if I just respond to life instead of reacting to any kind of good or bad situation, I just respond to life. Um, I really feel like that's where I really hit my stride. And
Ooh, that's
and
good, man. Respond to life. The limiting belief thing is a big deal. I grew up with my dad wasn't around. My mom was working 3 jobs. Um, when I got out of school, I really didn't think I could have a family and a super successful practice. I thought that I was going to have to rob from my family to build a business, or I was going to rob from my business to have a decent family life. And it's funny. I'm with a group of chiropractors that are kind of mindset Jedis, and what they knew about me was that I was a wrestler. And so, unfortunately, if you're a wrestler, you kind of got this, it's kind of like you kind of like pain sometimes. And so,
yeah,
and so they said, listen, there's a bunch of kids dying in the river. We were down at this camp in Florida, and they said there's a bunch of kids dying in the river. There's nobody else going to save them. The only savior that person's going to have is that there's going to be the medical system's going to come by, and they're going to give them pills, potions, and lotions and try to help that person. That person's dying. The reason that they're dying is because they can't swim, but they're gonna kind of cover up their symptoms. Are you willing to swim to the middle of the lake and get the kid? And I was like, woo! And so ran out the dock, jumped off the dock, swam to the middle of the lake. When I got out, they said, hey, run to the volleyball court. And so volleyball court's probably a quarter mile away. Ran to the volleyball court. They said up downs until you don't think you can do any more up downs, and started doing up downs. And all of a sudden, whistle blows and says, hey, there's another kid in the lake. We did this for like an hour or two, or maybe I don't even know how long we did it. But there was a moment where I went, dude, if I could do this, I'm just grinding my body, this wrecking myself, trying to save an imaginary kid. If I can do this, I can certainly have a good life and have a quality practice and a business, and I can have a beautiful family. I can do both. I'm not
yeah,
two separate people. I'm the same person that has the capacity to do all of it. And it took
yeah,
me, I had to break my mindset, man. And so sometimes you don't have to be like that, like, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to like really go through some hard stuff, prove to yourself that you can do it. And then when you get out of it, you look back and go, man, I can't believe I did that. That was like so simple. I have 4 kids and they're beautiful people. And you know, marriage is always, you know, it's tough as it can be, but we're a beautiful marriage too, man.
Yeah.
And even though it's hard, it's not as hard as 2 hours of running into the lake and getting people and, you know, just
Oh
all
no.
that. And so
I mean, I've sort of, you know, and I've been married for it's been about 20 years now, and it's just one
congratulations,
of those.
dude. That's a record nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those where it's like I've sort of, you know, told myself, you know, I was like, you know what, with all the things going on, I was like, if I can be, and I'm not going to be the best husband. I mean, heck, half the time, sometimes, be honest, sometimes we got an extra room. Argument happens, we have a discussion. Sometimes I'm sleeping downstairs, she's sleeping upstairs,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those where like, okay, I get up in the morning and do my meditation, and I say, look, this it's a new day.
Yeah.
I don't have to. The old story is saying, okay, look, whatever you know, whatever drama or whatever you had the previous day, it follows with you the next day. What if you told yourself literally every day is a new day? I could go out and you know like today may be the best the greatest day. You may have a awesome opportunity pop up today and not even realize it.
Yeah.
Um, so you know every day is new. You know yeah, it comes with its own sets of challenges and obstacles, but every day is new. So I can get up, center myself. You know, give my wife a hug, tell her I love her.
Yeah.
You know, every day is new. You don't have to bring any kind of baggage or anything that you had the day before
That's right.
with you. And every day I tell myself, I get up and I tell myself first thing I tell myself, hey, look, thank you for a new day. First thing I tell myself, and that's something I've been trying to tell a lot of my students, is what are the very first things you tell yourself that will be the pretty much the trajectory of your day.
That's good.
If you tell yourself, hey, look, oh man, it's just another day. Yes, God, the universe, it will give you just another day.
Sure.
If you tell yourself, you know what, and I'll tell myself, anytime I feel great, anytime I feel great, miracles happen. And
That's
that's
right.
after I get done working out, I get done doing my prayer, my meditation, I do my reading, my journaling. I was like, anytime when I feel great, miracles happen.
Yep.
Um, and that's something where like your body and everything, your mind, your heart, everything sort of wraps around that story. And if you believe that to be true, little things start popping up.
You and
So it's one of those where the people just have to learn how to, destroy those old stories, those old limitations about
that's right.
who do you think you are. So and honestly, that's what the seed, that's what the book is one of the concepts is about. Like who do you really think you are? If you knew, and that's the thing that I enjoy kids, because when I look at them, and even doing a lot of research now for the book, like a lot of these kids are working on genius level capacity. And even when they're doing daydreaming or they're having imaginary friends or making up make believe worlds, they have no clue whatsoever what is real or what's not real. We're the ones that's placing that on ourselves.
That's good.
Um, so it's just one of where like, look, can you be in that genius state? Can you be in that creative state? It gets harder obviously when you're adult, because there's outside things that tell you,
Yeah.
no, you're supposed to be doing this. And then we get to a certain age and be like, okay, you told me I was supposed to be doing this, and now I'm here, and now
Yeah.
we're having to destroy literally everything that we knew to be true to bring something else new.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those where that's something that yeah, I've really been fueled by, and just looking at little kids and talking to them. That's why a lot of my kids class love me, because I respect them, because I see what they're already capable of,
That's really good.
and I respect them from that. I don't respect it. I don't say, "Hey, look, you need to respect me because I'm your coach." No, I will put my knee down to you, and I will respect you like like who you the powerful person you can be,
Yeah,
because I
dude.
know you're capable of that.
That's honor. That's it's showing honor, and I think that we should do that with everybody, in whatever that their mission is just honor their version of themselves. Hey, you said a while back you and Coach Brands were did an interview, and you guys talked about. I love this. I love this, man. You guys talked about bitter hearts and healthy brains don't work, and the
Yeah.
unpure brain and a pure heart don't go together. And I just wanted to make a comment on that. Is that I think that a lot of what we're talking about right now comes from discernment, and having this past is not who you are. It does not. Your past does not define you. Your past failures do not define you, but it does make up who you are, and it certainly is your past, and it certainly is like lots of lessons, man. There's lots of lessons in this, and what those lessons teach us and help us to if we can really pause and not be in the rat race, is it'll show us some discernment. Well, if we can have some discernment and we can actually decide between what is good and bad, it is really hard to have negative thoughts and have a body that's going in a different direction. If you have, your head is going to lead your heart's going to lead your head, and they both need to be together. We can't have a head that's going this way, a heart that's here. We can't have an ugly heart and have, a brain that's trying to do its best.
Yeah. Yep. Oil and water never mixes.
Yes, good.
So yeah, it's about head and heart coherence, and figuring out, okay, once you believe it, and you already know it in your heart. Once you get in alignment with that, and that's something I've told my class before. I was like, when you get to that point where you're doing all this training, and you're doing all the reps, you're going through the motions. But when you know and you tell yourself, you know what, and I've told him this before, and a lot of times I talk to myself too. Is like, you know what, you were the most. You got to start telling yourself you are the most powerful person on this planet. You are the greatest fighter ever. Like, start believing and telling yourself that.
That's right.
When you do that, the any kind of physical workouts is just going to be a byproduct. Like, you'll sit there and go do a workout and be like, you know what, it's all this stuff, however hard it is, it's necessary right now. What happens is, like, we think about a lot of these athletes, we think so much about the actual work instead of the things that's already been built inside of us to bring out or unveil who we already actually are. As a coach, I'm just revealing. I tell people I'm not the best coach in the world, but what I will do is figure out ways to reveal who you already are.
It's good.
And if you have those qualities, or those things that's trying to be built, or maybe need to be remembered, as a coach, that's what I'm here to do. And I'll do it either through me speaking to you, or through training you. We have to figure out ways to sort of reveal and remember who we already actually are. These kids come in already knowing who they already are. They are literally at their greatest expression. And what we have to do as adults is remember that childlike nature. Not to say we're adults, but remember what it was like to be in joy for 5 minutes, for 10
Yeah.
minutes, for 20 minutes, to be creative, to just play, to just say, you know what, right now, look, you may have rent due, you may have business expenses, you may have all this stuff may be around you, but you know what? For 5 minutes, can you tell yourself that you love yourself right
Mm.
now for 5 minutes?
Mm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm. The world doesn't want that. This might melt the planet, dude. The world doesn't want you to be the most powerful you. From a spiritual standpoint, you're dangerous when you're your best you and you're doing good and you're using your superpowers for good, dude. That is dangerous to the evil parts of the world and the ugly parts of the world. But we do fight this, and we do fight our own in our insides, a battle of being our best and being our worst. I often want to be my worst, but I'm always reminded that, and I gotta constantly remind myself that I'm at my best. I feel my best. I can bless the most people when I'm focused on a healthy me, and a healthy
Yeah.
me infusing the community here with just whatever that it is that God gave me.
Yeah.
Our time's about up, but I got one more question for you. And
All right.
this is for parents out there. What is it about wrestling that what is this? What is this wrestling thing? Because this is our heartbeat, man. This is the thing that we have in common. This is what connects us. I truly believe that when I reached out to you, I went, that's what that was about. This was all that back in the past, and all that work that we did back in the day. Today, that's what that was about. The connection to
Yeah.
the future, a growth of a couple of individuals. That why wrestling? What is it about wrestling that makes that? If you're a parent out there, you don't have your kids in wrestling, let's do it. That you
Yeah.
learn some things. What is it about wrestling, Quantal?
Yeah, great question. It's one of those where I tell people it is the most imperfect sport on the planet. It's one of those where you can do all the right things and still fail. And it's one of those where it is a direct correlation of life. And I've told my students millions of times, I'm like, look, I'm not teaching you right now. I'm teaching you, but I'm teaching you about life right now. I can teach you this. You can do this move and feel like it's gonna be perfect, and something may happen. You may not even finish the takedown, but can you be in a responsive nature to keep adjusting, keep adapting, to know, hey, you know what? Yeah, I didn't get the most perfect takedown, but you know what? I can get into position for something else.
Yeah,
Um, so learning how to be adaptive, learning how to constantly be able to digest information and respond, to be creative, to just have grit, to persevere, and know, you know what, you look, you're gonna go, you may go 2 or 3 years, especially if you're trying to attain a certain goal, or you're trying to build a business or build a creative practice. You may go for 5 years, 10 years, and no one probably wouldn't even know you. And then out of the blue, a great opportunity pops up, and then millions of people know who you are. Um, that's because of the work and everything you did to get to that point. Um, Now, that being said, you may do all the work necessary, and it's still, something happens. You may fail in a certain venture. That's all right. You
yeah,
learn to put yourself back into a good position. Look at it from a different perspective,
that's
and you
good.
keep, creating the new story, that next chapter of you. That's something that's wrestling, that's something that's been ingrained in me, and that's something that I'm still evolving and still learning. You know what is the next version of me? What is the next expression of who I could be, in society, for my family on this planet? And I think with the book that I'm working on, I think that is the next great expression, the next great work of me. So I think with wrestling is the most imperfect sport. I mean, I can feel like I can say, hey, look, yes, I want to be a, all American and do this and that. Things happen and it doesn't work. Um, yeah, you can either, be sad and get down on yourself, and I know I've done that. Or you can tell yourself, hey, you know what, it is what it is. Um, you know, for that chapter, yes, it's done. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. What's the next thing? How can we use that loss and that failure,
It's good.
and use that as a platform, the stepping stone for our next phase of life? And I think a lot of people, especially with kids, they need to know that. Um,
It's
and that's
good.
why I enjoy working with my kids, because it's like, look, you need to learn, like, stop. This was a great example. We were working on just simple positioning, and what happens when they're wrestling, a lot of them tend to just turn around and curl up when someone comes at them. And it's one
Huh.
of those where, like, now we're teaching, like, look, don't 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 turn from your mess. I need you to fight in it. I need you to fight through your mess right now. You
That's
know, if
good.
someone's on you right now and trying to get position or they're looking for a takedown, I need you to respond to it. I need you to
That's
fight.
good.
Don't curl up and let someone overwhelm you. Figure out ways to just fight through that mess. And I guarantee you, once you're comfortable with that, then that's when things start opening up. And you have to learn
Hmm.
how to sit in that mess, being comfortable with that.
It's a good way to wrestling is both building up and humility. There's you can work as hard as you can, and you get on the mat with somebody and he rails you and then you go, dude, but you learn something. You become a little bit humble because you might have went into that match a little bit overconfident. My son's 14. He's just started wrestling. It's funny, you know how we do. It's he'll look at the guy, he's warming up, the other guy's warming up, he looks at the guy, he's like, oh dude, I'm not even warming up, and he goes out there and gets blasted. And you go, Lincoln, you can't just because the guy was a little pudgy, man, that doesn't mean he couldn't wrestle with you. So hey man, thanks for being here today. Once again, you've been listening to Victory Health Radio, victoryhealth.tv with Quantal Langford from Langford Design Studios. The Seed, oh man, the Seed series. What else are we connecting you to?
Yeah, Just Heart Apparel, which is my lifestyle clothing brand, and then I've got the podcast and the show, the Creative Brew,
Yep.
and yeah, that's all the things right now. I'm sure something else may pop up in the future, but right now that's what I'm sort of mixing and experimenting with, is learning how to you know all those things are just expressions of me, and I'm just figuring out ways to put that out in the world, give good.
Hey, thanks for sharing yourself with the world, Quantel.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for
Yep.
having me on.
So cool. All right. Well, so once again, everything that we talked about is linked in the description below on both the podcast and on the YouTube channel and on IGTV. And so we'll connect with you guys. Hope you have a great day. Love you so much. Have a great weekend. Bye.